after all these years, everybody's making jokes that Bob was the janitor at Los Alamos. He never worked there. Okay, he's in the phone book. I've talked to a bunch of individuals that knew him from working with him there, but I couldn't go public with it. Finally, I found a brave individual who was willing to talk to me on the record about working with Bob Lazar at Los Alamos in scientific capacity, being in briefings, classified briefings, which, by the way, the janitors are not invited to, the highly technical classified briefings, with Bob Lazar, and his name was Dr. Robert Krangle. I have all of his documents, all of his paperwork from all the contracts that he did during that time period at multitude of bases, including Los Alamos. During that time, Dr. Krangle's telling the truth. I can prove it. What was your impression of what Bob was doing at Los Alamos in the 80s?
I didn't know what he was up to any more than he knew what I was up to.
But you did know that he was a physicist.
Yes.
And that was very clear to you, that he was a physicist at Los Alamos and not, again, like the janitor.
Right.
So he worked there. And he went on record with me and says, of course you remember Bob. Bob was the jet car guy. He was a rock star. He looks like Mick Jagger. How can you not remember Bob? I remember Bob. Bob was cool as shit. And yeah, he worked at Los Alamos. Big deal. I'm like, big deal to who? It's a big deal, man. And he goes, why? And I'm like, because he's got a bigger story, and everybody says a good link to that is, did he work at Los Alamos? Because if he worked at Los Alamos, there is a possible reason he could have been picked up to work on a highly classified project through EG&G to go to the test site and work on this non-terrestrial stuff. And Dr. Krangle was like, okay, whatever. So I got him on record. The guy's a really funny guy, really smart, and next thing you know, I publish it. Next day, I should have warned him. He starts getting inundated by calls by Stan Freeman, just inundated. I mean, God, I love Stan. Stan and I like him. We totally disagree, because Stan's wrong. So, yeah. So he attacked Dr. Krangle on the phone, trying to belittle what Dr. Krangle said. He goes, Jeremy, what did you do? This guy keeps calling me. All I did was tell you a little thing, and he won't leave me alone. I'm like, yeah, he's looking to try to discredit you because he's invested in it not being true about Bob Lazar. I said, just tell him what you told me. Tell him the truth. So anyway, any way you get around it, here's a physicist, worked at Los Alamos, in scientific capacity, was in security briefings with Bob Lazar. Make of that what you will. When I started talking to people about this when I was like 13 years old, people would almost laugh when you said extraterrestrials probably exist. The world view has changed. Now we know all these exoplanets, trillions of star systems with habitable planets. So the whole paradigm has shifted. What's the next thing? And now you're going to be
Contact.
ahead. Exactly. You're going to be ahead 10 years right now. What would the big deal be? What is the biggest lie? Well, if these things are real, are they coming here? So that's the question. If we can kind of narrow in the discussion to that now, rather than extraterrestrials don't exist, okay, well, we just have the one planet out of trillions and billions that has life, that's a lack of imagination. It's not a matter of belief. It's true or it's not true. An individual named Bob Lazar. I have followed the case for many years because my mentor is George Knapp, who is...
I grew up watching him. He's a television news reporter.
Peabody Award-winning journalist. Right. He's amazing. So basically, I've been able to see it from a very unique perspective. He claims that he back-engineered extraterrestrial technologies, propulsion systems, advanced propulsion systems that essentially warp space-time, amplify gravity waves in order to travel. The most incredible idea. And the question we should be asking is, okay, there probably is life everywhere, microbial and intelligent. Are they visiting here?
Well, I am telling the truth. I've tried to prove that. What's going on up there could be the most important event in history. You're talking about contact, physical contact and proof from another system, another planet, another intelligence. That's got to be the biggest event in history, period.
And it's real.
And it's real and it's there.
According to Lazar, his employer was the United States Navy. He says he and other government employees would gather near EG&G, fly to Groom Lake, then a very few people would get into a bus with blacked out or no windows and drive to S4. He says he was never told exactly what he'd be working on, but figured it had something to do with advanced propulsion. On his first day, he was told to read a series of briefings and immediately realized how advanced the propulsion was.
The power source is an antimatter reactor. They run gravity amplifiers. There's actually two parts to the drive mechanism. It's a bizarre technology. There's no physical hookup between any of the systems in there. They use gravity as a wave, using waveguides, almost like microwaves. After you're exposed to it, just for a little while, it begins to settle in your mind, and these are normal things now. Okay, 115 belongs there on the chart, and this flies, and this is how gravity works. Great. Just like someone being from the 1800s being exposed to a car for a few days, he takes it for granted very quickly. The most shocking thing was when I actually got to look inside the disc, the seats in the panel associated with them were very small. They were, perhaps that far off the ground, like something small. Now, if we had made something like that, we wouldn't have made it to fit children. It just led me to believe, with the size of the alien cadavers I saw, the size of the seats inside. I know there are alien craft here from another planet. I saw other ones, but I was inside one. I know it was not made on Earth. I know it was made with materials that we cannot fabricate, we cannot duplicate, and we've never been able to. I know it uses a power source that's so advanced that we could only dream of something along those lines, and the energy density on it is phenomenal. It's nothing that I would ever expect to see. I also know that at some point they've examined or had bodies of alien creatures somewhere. So I know that stuff for a fact. And that's the bottom line. Say it's very easy to produce crafts like this, and say they actually can. It would disrupt all of our transportation. There are just too many things could disrupt our society as it exists now. Maybe they're just looking on so much of a bigger scale than I am.
But it's true.
It's true. What I have seen is true. I don't know about the big story, where they came from, what they're like, but certainly these crafts came from another, not just another planet, another solar system entirely, extremely far away, and they're here.
If you joined us last week, you heard some startling revelations about UFOs and the government cover-up about UFOs from noted UFO researcher John Lear. You recently decided to take it upon yourself to try to get to the bottom of this major cover-up.
What happened is I was approached by a government theoretical physicist employed by the government who works on the saucers up at Groom Lake. He has seen the aliens. He is tired of the cover-up. We drove up there. We were actually there on 3 occasions.
I mean, the fact that that the military doesn't want you around a top secret base doesn't mean there's flying saucers there.
No, it doesn't, except we had just seen one. All I can tell you is that when you find out the truth, a month from now, a year from now, 2 years from now, you'll look back and you'll say, my God, the son of a gun was right.
This is the hard part of the story for people to understand. They don't really get a sense of what it was like because really, literally, you had to be there for some of this. I lived through it. I know what it was like, what Bob was going through at that time. They were breaking into his house and playing mind games. You know, they'd leave the doors open, they'd leave drawers open, nothing's taken. They'd write things on his blackboard or erase things, move things around. He goes to the gym with his buddy and he's kind of scared, so he's got an Uzi in his car. He comes out an hour later after working out. The doors to the car are open, the windows are down, the glove box is open, and the Uzi is laying there on the front seat. That wasn't a burglary. That was somebody messing with him. That stuff really happened. It's both frightening and infuriating.
Some of this stuff just sounds crazy to me, and I understand. I'm biased because I'm behind my eyes and see everything, but this is crazy shit. You think there's something more secret than that the flying saucers are a cover-up for? I'm trying to tell you exactly the way things were and what I was exposed to. Where is it? Show me the alternate reality that you believe that doesn't lock up with my actual reality. I mean, where are those other facts? Just show me what they are. These facts you grabbed together and painted a different story of my life than I did.
Really think about it. This is the most powerful technology on Earth. It seems like we have a control over the world of physics, you know, but the one thing we can't do is everything related to gravity. Force fields, time travel, reactionless propulsion, warp drive, camouflage where you can bend light around things. So yeah, we make movies about all this stuff that we can't do. But the thing is, if you can control gravity, that one force, and produce it on demand, all that stuff the same day becomes reality. So you could essentially be invincible just by use of gravity. Look, with ET technology, you can literally rule the world.
It becomes less important for you to prove it to other people. If you don't want to believe it, you're not going to believe it. It doesn't matter what the proof is. Have a 5-pound chunk of element 115 sitting on this desk and lift a saucer off the roof of this house, and it's not going to matter. It's the same as with a flying saucer landing on the White House lawn. That would not be good enough for people who don't want to believe it. So at some point it becomes a waste of your time. You're just spinning your wheels to try to come up with proof to show some people who are disbelievers that Bob Lazar is telling the truth. You reach a point where, the hell with them. You know, moving on. I know it's real. And this circle of people who are involved in this story know it's real. And it's time to work on something else.
So it's the reactor here, powering the gravity amplifiers. Gravity amplifiers output goes into the gravity emitters at the bottom, and the resulting gravity beam or anti-gravity wave can be pretty much put anywhere you want to. And I had access and was permitted to view and look at the operation of this main level with the gravity amplifiers, and the level below, the gravity emitters. People call these large black rectangular areas on the top portholes. I believe they were some planar sensor array that just took in information from the surrounding area, whether it be patterns of stars or what have you.
Is someone else here? Maybe visitors interested in us, in our genes, in our souls? Maybe we're property. We're like livestock. Maybe they'd like our condors and cupcakes, the kimono or the top hat. Or maybe every single sighting of things in the sky is a product of our collective consciousness. A false hope that humanity desperately needs intervention by external powers. We've always looked to the skies for answers, instead of looking into ourselves.
These gravity emitters can be swung all the way up to 180 degrees. This one swings up and creates a distortion in front of it, allowing the craft to slide forward. So that's how their Omicron configuration operates. The Delta configuration uses all three, and unlike science fiction movies where you see flying saucers just flying along like that, they actually fly belly first. The craft flies along, leaves the atmosphere of the planet. It turns its belly to the destination. The three amplifiers focus in on the destination, and that's how it proceeds.
This is an alien spacecraft.
Right, obviously.
Can we ever be made whole if we're not believed? If our life story is challenged by consensus? Most of us are not forced to answer for our past. We can freely navigate this moment with a reverence for what came before. But some people are placed under a microscope. Their words, their actions, scrutinized and challenged. And then they're told to quiet the lies. How much can a man take before he submits to the weight and consequence of distrust? Does he fade back into the shadows that formed him? Or does he lash out to carve his words into your flesh? To carve his words into your flesh.
That was kind of a coffee drop moment when I realized who my boss was. Because when I interviewed with him, I thought I was just some guy. And then I go back home and I kind of start putting two and two together when I, research who am I working for and all that. And I was like, oh my God, I'm working for Bob. Because this is a guy I'd known about since I was 12 years old. So my uncle showed me a conspiracy video. It's the Bob tape with the interview with him at S4 in Area 51 from the 80s or so. And I remember that because that was like the only video I'd ever seen where I actually trusted it was like the only conspiracy video where I actually trusted the guy and what he was saying. So flash forward 10 years later and I'm actually interviewing with him and I'm like, oh my God, I get to work for this guy.
My name's Bob Lazar. I'm known for working at a classified base known as S4 out in the Nevada desert near Area 51. And there, we reverse engineered alien spacecraft. And it's changed my life a lot.
Positive or negative?
Well, for the most part, negative.
Would you take it all back and just be Bob the jet car guy and never have done this if you can, or are you glad you had the experience?
Yeah, that's hard to say. I don't know. I think I'd lean towards not, at this point in my life, I'd probably lean towards not saying anything.